you are into movie reviews and discussions, this is your place to be. Who am I, you ask? I am The Wiz, and I'm with my friend...
Zero.
Woo! All right. We are here to review Kim Shactman's favorite movie, the 2005 romantic comedy Elizabethtown, starring Orlando Bloom and Kirsten Dunst, directed by Cameron Crowe. Zero, I don't know if you're aware of who Cameron Crowe is. Are you aware?
I got familiar with his filmography and stuff like that. Jerry Maguire and Vanilla Sky being the two big ones that just kind of popped out.
Yes. You saw Vanilla Sky?
Yes, I did.
Vanilla Sky is very unlike most of the films that he does. It's a decent movie, but the movie that it was based from is actually a lot better. It's called Open Your Eyes. And it also starred Penelope Cruz. It's decent, but it's not something I would have wanted Cameron Crowe to do. But it's okay. But you're right, Jerry Maguire is the one I think that he is most known for, but his best movie is Almost Famous, a movie that I want both of you to see. It's an amazing... I think Kim has seen it, but I think you should see it. It actually is a very good movie. It's one that I love. I think it's a great movie. So when Elizabethtown was coming out, the last movie he did was Almost Famous, which is the movie that got him the Oscar for Best Screenplay, and it got him all sorts of awards and accommodations. It really cemented him as the go-to writer for romance or character-driven dramas. So when Elizabethtown came out, there was a lot of hype for this film, that it was going to be something special because it was from the guy who did Almost Famous. Well, that didn't happen because the reviews completely tanked it. And I'll be honest, since the reviews and since a few of my friends have said, don't see it, I've been avoiding this movie. But Kim's favorite movie is this, and since I came up with this idea, perfect time as any to actually check it out. So, are these type of films something you like, or is this kind of like, once in a while, maybe if the girlfriend's into it?
It's definitely something on the once in a while sort of palette, but I'm kind of weird that I like things with a lot of world building and a lot of story.
Okay, yeah, I like those types of films too, but I am a person that is very... I guess I'm kind of a softie this way because I actually do like romance movies a lot. I do like them very much so. Some of my favorite ones are romances. These types of films are something I gravitate towards. So since I haven't seen it, I was looking forward to seeing it. So why don't we get to the review of Elizabethtown, shall we?
Yeah, let's go ahead and proceed.
Okay, we are getting to the review of Elizabethtown, starring Orlando Bloom and Kirsten Dunst, directed by Cameron Crowe. Okay, just so you guys know, we are going to do the whole review with spoilers. So if you haven't watched the film and you want to, you might want to skip over into our final thoughts. So just to let you guys know. Let's start with your thoughts right away.
Overall, it's kind of a cute romantic tragicomedy. There's some funny moments, there's some cute moments. There are definitely some unbearable moments. The unbearable moments, there are moments I was just like, oh god, this is drawn out way too long. Can we just move on? No, we're drawing it out? Okay. Jeez. Okay, I think we get the point. Let's keep it. No. Oh god, why?
The oh god, why is the prevailing thought I had throughout this film. I get the feeling I'm going to lose a friend at the end of this review. So, I'm sorry, Kim. I'm sorry. I'm going to probably eviscerate your movie. I was so glad when this movie was over. There were so many problems with this movie that I had. And I'm glad that you were able to enjoy it somewhat. I just sat there watching this movie going, why? Why did Cameron Crowe decide to write the characters the way he did in this? The characters are typical Cameron Crowe. If you remember, like Jerry Maguire, Almost Famous, or if the one that he wrote, Say Anything. They are flawed, tragic male characters who just so happen to meet and fall for this absolute perfect magic pixie woman who in real life could never fucking exist. But because she's there and she is perfect, and, that's just the way it is in these characters. The character falls in love, grows in a certain way, and the girl just kind of stays who she is because she's perfect. She doesn't have to change. And that worked in Jerry Maguire, and it worked really well in Almost Famous. It was done so bad in this movie because the characters and the way that the story was written was so poor that I just could not get into the movie at all without pointing out what's wrong. Why is that there? What are they doing? What's the point of this? Like, I sat here throughout the entire film. We just watched the movie now, and we're deciding to do the review right after, which I normally don't do because I usually want time to cool down. But this was painful to watch throughout the most of the film, honestly. Let's get into, I think, one positive that I have before I just go crazy. The music is great. I think the music the music's great, and that's another hallmark of Cameron Crowe. He puts in a lot of really good classic rock or rock music into his movies and implements them well to the scenes. I wouldn't say that the songs are implemented well in the scenes, but I think with a script this bad, it's kind of hard to put any song in there that implemented well. But because the music was good, I was like, okay, so that's fine. That will be enough to climb the movie to like a 1 star for me. But past that, oh my God. Like, I could not believe what I was watching throughout this. Go ahead, tell me some positives that you had about the movie specifically. What are the things that you enjoyed? The
scene where Drew, Orlando Bloom's character, is on like multiple phone calls trying to juggle through like his boredom and depression and everything. That one sort of hit me square in the heart because I had a moment very, very similar to that. Not relating to a dead relative or anything, but just having to juggle family and their expectations, a girlfriend, an on and off girlfriend that finally just broke it off with me, and then just a female friend who was trying to sort of remind myself to, just set myself free of the sadness and everything. And I was just like, God, I know that situation too well. This kind of hits a little too close for home.
Yeah. And films have that capability of doing that when it reminds you of a certain something in your life and it just kind of hits you there. I understand that completely. Go on with more positive stuff. I want to give you your time to say what you like, because I get the feeling, I am sorry, but I get the feeling once I start, I won't stop. So let's go with more positives for you. Go right ahead. What were your positives?
So one of the things that annoyed me in the movie were the scenes with the family, because you would have Jesse just with his fucking screaming kid just really just laying into the screaming, and those moments always annoyed the shit out of me. Mm-hmm. And then of course just Claire, Kirsten Dunst's character, she gives him a tape and she's just like, yeah, just for your cousin Jesse, this will shut the kids up. And of course it's like this movie of like this like Demolition Man going, hey, I'm gonna blow up like the minute he pops in the tape, all the kids go silent. And of course you got this handyman Demolition Man going, hey, I'm gonna blow this house up, but I'll only do it if you're quiet. You gonna agree to be quiet? I was just like, oh, thank you, Lord.
Yeah, oh, God, that scene was so corny too. I just
yes, it was. Oh my God.
I sat when that scene happened. It was like, on one hand, you're right. Like the kids screaming was like, oh, thank God it's over. But then it seemed so inauthentic and unrealistic. Not because usually it would be like some kids are still screaming a little, maybe they're making noises, then they're fixated. But it was like a straight nothing when that tape came on. I was like, what? That's not how kids work. What the fuck?
Yeah, I was just like, yeah, that is so not believable. But thank God the screaming kid has stopped. Sweet, merciful God.
But that's kind of the trope also of the Magic Pixie Woman, where she knows every right thing for every right situation to rectify the problem. It's a trope, and with some movies that works, but in this movie it doesn't work. It just doesn't. I mean, did it work for you? Did you like Kirsten Dunst's character?
Her character is cute, but it was just definitely like, wow, this is like way too perfect.
Yes.
Like, I guess it's one of those things that sort of trips that human gut feeling of if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And that was kind of what I felt with the characters. Is like, just her character's cute and just is just all around fun, but it's just a way too perfect character. Like, this is way too perfect. And I mean, I get it. Just she's trying to be a light in Drew's life, because Drew has gone through 2 miserable moments in his life in the intro of the movie. And I mean, I get what they're trying to do, but it was just one of those things that just sort of set off my hey, yeah, this is way too picture perfect. There's no way there, because I think to make an effective romance story, even the perfect magic pixie woman has to have some flaws. It's just how human nature is. Just we're not perfect, and that was why I was just kind of like, just maybe there's some sort of glaring imperfection, maybe, and it was just like, nope, she's super perfect, she's super patient. I get it, but just it kind of ruins sort of the push and pull that you expect in a romantic story.
See, I disagree on a certain aspect. Sometimes the magic pixie girl trope can work, but you are right on one set. There has to be some kind of flaw. But it usually doesn't have to be a flaw. Like, it could be like, oh, she's this perfect-looking girl who's always happy, always smiling, this and that. And she also happens to be a nerd. And that could be the quote-unquote flaw, but it doesn't have to be a flaw. It has to be a personality trait. It has to be something that is tangible to a certain extent. I would say, not a flaw, but some kind of tangibility, where I feel like at any moment, if I turn around, she'll be gone in an instant because it'll be a puff of smoke because it was magic all along. And something along those lines, or she was a ghost, or something along those fucking lines, or the manifestation of my mind that wanted that perfect type of girl and I just needed it at that certain time. Something along that type. I don't mind the trope, but without a good script behind it and a good romance behind it as well with other characters that work, it just doesn't fit. And I don't want to fault Kirsten Dunst in this, because I think she can play that role pretty well. She's a very capable actress. She is charming, and she is, again, she's an actress that can pull that stuff off, especially around that time. But in this, the script is so bad. It is done so poorly that even if, like, Kirsten Dunst gave the performance of her fucking life, it just wouldn't work. I think one problem that I have big time is not Will. What's his name? We just watched the movie. What's the main character's name?
Drew.
Thank you. I think the big problem I have with this is the character Drew. Drew, honestly, from the moment that you watch him, when he's introduced to the moment the main plot goes, is not authentic and just doesn't seem believable in the slightest. Now, there is some Hollywood magic in most of Cameron Crowe's films, but there's still a believability in these roles that make them work. Jerry Maguire was that way. Almost Famous with Patrick Fugit's character was exactly that and worked incredibly well. But there was 2 problems with Drew's character. One, the way he was written. I think the suicide attempt was like, that was so fucking unnecessary. Like, why did he want to commit? Like, I get, like, oh my god, I just blew up this thing that I had. Is that really enough for a suicide attempt? I know with some it might be, but man, I looked at that and went, that's a little ridiculous. And the way that he attempted suicide is the other thing where I'm like, what are you doing? Like, what is the? Oh man.
Yeah, it was a contrived contraption. I'm just like, yeah, that's not quite how suicide attempts work. Most suicide attempts are usually something brutally quick, like a gunshot to the head, or maybe it's something more slow and perceived as painless, like overdosing on painkillers. But I was just like, really? A freaking elliptical rigged to just repeatedly stab himself multiple times? That just doesn't seem like how a realistic suicide attempt would be.
It's strangely macabre for the type of movie this is. And then, on top of that, it seems the film was trying to be very quirky in specific aspects of the movie, such as the suicide attempt and certain things that happen with Claire, which is Kirsten Dunst's character, and the family that was involved. But quirky is hard to get down right. It's something that you have to rely on the character, not only the actors, but the writers to be a little more weird than maybe normal. The problem was the script just couldn't do quirky very well. And the other is Orlando Bloom. Orlando Bloom is just, well, I can't say it nicely, so I'll just say it. He is the wrong actor for this movie. The guy does not have charisma in this movie at all. And a part of the problem is the script. Yes, part of the problem is the script. But if you would have had, let's say if this was made right now and Timothy Chalamet was the actor playing the role, I think you would have a better performance for that character than you would have Orlando Bloom. I just don't think Orlando Bloom has the charisma to bring that character out, especially when that character is doing the more crazy and more slapstickish things in the movie. It just feels incredibly off with Orlando Bloom. And when he is the main character of this movie that you're supposed to empathize with and feel bad for and connect with, the bad writing is not going to help, but the performance ain't going to either. So now you're just sitting there for 2 hours going, yep, okay, is this over yet? That's me, at least. How did you feel about Orlando Bloom?
Yeah, it was kind of one of those things that just he didn't really quite nail the emotional piece. And now that you mentioned Timothy Chalamet, I think he would have been just a so much more better pick for this, for a character to just sort of empathize the emotions with, because there's some moments that just the emotion didn't come out as strongly as it should have. Like the moment where just you've got Drew sitting around like a kitchen table and you've got all the men sort of like trying to plan for this memorial event at a memorial hall and everything, and just they're talking about, hey, we're gonna do this, hey, we should do this, hey, Drew, you should reconsider the cremation and all this other stuff. And you see what seems like a tinge of sort of confusion and panic, but it just doesn't come out as strongly as it should.
Yes.
Because I've been in similar situations like that, and I mean, there's a lot of confusion, and sometimes you almost damn near get upset because of how much confusion's going on. And I just didn't feel it in those moments. It was just like, there should be a lot more emotion, and I just don't see it.
I think some might listen to you say that and go, well, wouldn't that be a problem with the script? Because maybe the script didn't actually, I don't know, they didn't give a scene to point that out, which they'll be right, that is a problem. But when you have a good actor, specifically, they're supposed to actually empathize, and you're supposed to actually see it in the performance of what they're going through to a certain extent. You're supposed to see the panic. You're supposed to see the confusion they're supposed to have. And I think you're 100% right on this, because I just know somebody is going to hear this and go, well, wait a minute, that's the writing's problem. But I think you're right, because the way that the performance was with Orlando Bloom, I think he just doesn't have the right range of emotions for this type of movie that would not only show the dramatic side, but I think the charismatic side. I think that's a big problem with this movie specifically, is Orlando Bloom. He just doesn't have, I think, what is necessary to make this type of movie work. But that's if the script is good. This script is bad. This script is terrible. It's just... Okay, before I get into my spiel, what'd you think of the writing? Just, maybe you think differently. What'd you think of the writing of the script?
It was okay, but just with how perfect Claire is, it almost seems a little bit contrived.
Very contrived. No, I agree with you on Claire on this. Even though I do like Kirsten Dunst in this role. I think she does the best she can with it. I think if the rest of the movie was written a better way, this character and this performance would be a lot more celebrated. I'm not saying it's a great performance. It's good, but it's only good because I think the script kills it for her. She has the charm and charisma to pull that off, I think. But you're right. The character is too contrived because you're having these disparate elements throughout the entire film, trying to blend each other together, that with a master filmmaker, like I would say Cameron Crowe is, that it could really work out. But this is the type of film that either it really hits well or it bombs terribly. And to me, it bombed. It just really did not do very well at all. And I think a lot of it has to do with the way Drew is written. And here's a big question I have throughout the film that never got answered. Why does the town love his father so much? Do we know? Is there anything we can glean from it other than his family? Why do they love him so much?
The only thing I could glean from it was when Paula Dean's character, Aunt Dora, talks to him. She goes over just how like he's done like a bunch of things in the town. He knows a bunch of people in the town, and that's about it. And even then, they sort of gloss over a lot. So it's just kind of, you're supposed to run with the assumption that his dad was just somebody that the town absolutely loved, and that's really about it.
Yeah, and when he first gets into Elizabethtown, Drew, I mean, he's being like followed by townspeople, waved at, pointed at, go this way, go that way. I'm like, what? To me, I'll be like, if that were me, I'm like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. This is creepy. What the fuck's going on? And he's like, oh yeah, okay, that's cool, thanks guys. I'm like, that's creepy. Okay, let me get to another thing that I was like, if this happened to me, I would get out of there as fast as possible. The introduction of Claire. I don't care how gorgeous and how nice a woman is. If they came up to me like that, like Claire did in this movie, I would be like, lady, excuse me, can you leave me the fuck alone? I'm like, what? Lady, you're fucking crazy. What are you what? What is your... Like, it was clear in the film, like Drew was like, just leave me alone, and she keeps butting in and butting in and butting in. Again, if the film was written better and the performance from Drew was a lot better, I think that scene could work. But it just turns Claire into this annoying pest. And I'm like, this is how you introduce your character? What? Like, am I wrong with that? Did you get a different feeling from that scene?
My vibe was a bit different.
Okay,
it just kind of felt like she was being kind of quirky and conversational. Mm-hmm. And I've actually had platonic friendships sort of bloom from similar circumstances. And that's why just that experience may color me completely different on how I felt on it. Okay. I am not a social person, so that might be my downfall on that one. But I just looked at that scene and went, if someone tried to talk to me like a perfect stranger, I don't care what she looked like, I don't care how charming she is, I wouldn't like, lady, what? I asked you just to leave me alone. Please stop. Like, but again, this is another thing with quirkiness in movies. It takes the right mix to make it work, and it just did not work with me. Like, period in this, like, at all. Are there any characters that you liked in this movie or performances that you liked? I quite liked Kirsten Dunst a lot. It definitely seemed like she was trying to work with what she had. And there are definitely moments that just are very sweet and very heartfelt, kind of like the last one where she gives Drew sort of this curated tour back home. And that one was kind of a sort of cute and sincere gesture, especially when Drew in the beginning had mentioned that just he had wanted to take a road trip with his dad, Mitch, for the longest time, and unfortunately he can't. And just it's sort of like this, hey, you should stop here, sort of like a road trip with his dad in a sense and everything. And then just how the journey comes to a conclusion, I thought it was kind of cute, but definitely way too perfect.
Yeah, the nature of that entire scene is that Claire was able to predict and map out the entirety of his 48-hour trip to perfectly time it to make sure she was in the exact place he was at the end for them to embrace and kiss. Which, again, on the one hand, like, yes, it's completely fucking unbelievable. But on the other hand, if it's done right, it can be very charming and very sweet. But in my eyes, it just did not work. It was one of those eye-rolling moments where I'm like, oh my God, are you fucking kidding me right now? Let me guess, she's going to be there at the... yeah, she is there. So, as you can tell, I had a viscerally negative reaction to this movie. Is there any aspects that you want to talk about at all that we haven't discussed?
You had some moments that were just drawn out way too long.
Okay.
One of my personal moments that I felt was drawn out a bit too long was the scene where you have Drew with his phone call with Claire, where he decides to go sneak out since there's a wedding going on in the floor of the hotel that he's on, and he's just like, all right, I'm gonna try to see if I can sneak around and get a drink. And he sees like a bathtub just covered in ice and full of beers and stuff, and kind of mentions to Claire on the phone, hey, I'm stealing some beers from Chuck's wedding and everything. And of course, just he bumps into somebody, and dude just like who are you? And he's like, yeah, I'm a friend of Chuck's. And then of course, dude calls him out. He's like, you're no friend of Chuck because I don't know who the hell you are.
Yeah.
And then of course it starts to get awkward at this point, and of course Chuck starts kind of inquiring like why he's here and stuff like that. And of course, just Drew's just trying to get on his way and everything, and really didn't want to get into it. And then just Chuck finally gets him to suss it out, and then he's like, well, I'm here because my dad died. And then it's just like this dude bro hugging it out moment. I'm just like, all right, dude's very drunk, he feels very sorry for Drew, I get it. And then it's just like more hugging it out. It's like, oh God, this is way too drawn out. Oh Jesus, just get it over with.
Yes. I think the whole phone call sequence between Claire and Drew was incredibly drawn out. Like, you just need a montage in about 30 seconds to just figure out what's going on. And then you have them talk and smiling, and having a good time. And then you do the scene where let's go meet in the to see the sunset. And then that's all you need to do. That scene was about, what, 5 or 10 minutes long?
Yeah.
Like, that was really unnecessary. Really unnecessary. And honestly, I think it's unnecessary because I think the dialogue is bad. So, with that, I would have just sat there and been like, oh my God, can we just cut 10 minutes of this, please? Oh God. Let me ask you a question. Would it have been better if Drew and Claire were friends at the end instead of partners and lovers?
That's kind of hard to say.
Because you don't care?
Well, no. I was doing some supplemental research after the movie had concluded and everything, and there was an interesting opinion written about the movie from Roger Ebert. Mm-hmm. And he felt that on his second viewing of the movie that the allegory that's alluded to in the movie is about an angel that's fallen from grace, trying to guide a person through his dark struggles in the worst time of his life to try to guide him back to the light. And kind of an interesting allegory, to say the least. When I kind of sat and thought about it, I was just like, that's kind of an interesting way to see that and interpret it and everything. Sure. And much like any sort of like guiding angel story, there are some stories where just the angel or the human falls in love, but they know that they just can't be together due to circumstance. And then there's some that just they end up remaining friends just because of the circumstance. And it's kind of one of those things that just, for me, the jury is out on whether or not just changing it to just at the end where they just remain friends forever would end up making things better, or if it would just be sort of the same.
So that is a good interpretation. That's why I love Roger Ebert. I don't know what he rated. I think he probably was one of the more positive reviews of that movie. I don't remember, to be absolutely honest. My thought of this movie is basically the end of the movie, should have been that scene where Drew was spreading the ashes of his father outside of the car like he was driving. That should have been the end shot, and that's it. I don't even allude to that Claire and him meet again. Let that be a mystery at that point. But that's also... But my problem generally is that I think nothing in this film really worked. Like, to me, this film needs like another pass-through, because another pass-through with writing this would have said, okay, we need more time with the family to really gather exactly why they feel that way about the father. We need more about Drew and why he's so despondent, and why maybe this experience will help him. We need all this depth here that's just not there. But instead, it just seemed, and this is, I think, the most disappointing thing about me with this, is that a filmmaker like Cameron Crowe took those templates and reworked them to have more depth. That's with Jerry Maguire, and that's with Almost Famous, and that's with Say Anything. They were much more depth in those stories and made those characters more fully fleshed out than they were in more romantic movies. And this movie has less depth than most movies that Hollywood churns out. And I just couldn't help but be utterly disappointed by this. I'm actually upset, like a lot by this, because I just expect more from Cameron Crowe. I just don't know if I'm just more emotional about it and more pissed about it because it's Cameron Crowe, or because it's actually terrible. I gotta work my feelings out there, but I just, oh man, I just did not like this at all. If you haven't guessed. Anything more you want to add? You want to get into final thoughts?
We can roll to final thoughts.
All right. Well, Zero, I'm gonna lose a friend today. I think that's clear.
Just rip the Band-Aid off. Just rip the Band-Aid off. It's gonna be fine.
So if Kim never comes back, this is why. I couldn't help but be incredibly disappointed by this movie. With the saving grace of the music and a decent performance by Kirsten Dunst, who I do not think it's her fault that the performance wasn't better than it could have been. I think the script is terrible. I think the whole story is contrived, and on top of that, with the attempts at quirky humor and stuff like that, it just falls flat. I wanted this film to end within 45 minutes of this film going on, and when it was over, I was like, good Lord, why? Why was this so bad? I am going to give this a half star out of 5. I am just utterly devastated by this movie. I could not believe someone who made such great films as Jerry Maguire and Almost Famous, I just don't know where he got this from. And this film essentially tanked that prospect that he had. Essentially, he went from being like a kingmaker to now being an also-ran. It's really sad. Like, I think his last movie was Aloha, and that was awful. Like, I don't know what happened to him. So yeah, I like the music. Kirsten Dunst is fun. All right, you know what? I'll give it 1 star. It's a 1-star rating. Kirsten Dunst is good for what she could do with it, and the music is good. Other than that, I think it's utterly unwatchable. 1 star for me.
Might be a little bit more positive, but some people may see it as not by much, but okay. I'd say maybe about a 60%.
Okay.
So roughly 3 stars, but it's just one of those things that just, I get it. It's trying to tell a romantic tragicomedy style story with the whole magic Pixie woman trope, but just they don't have anything that's either like a character flaw or a tangible flaw to this magic Pixie woman, and it just kind of makes it feel contrived in some moments, and it's a real damn shame because I really quite like Kirsten Dunst. Mm-hmm. And again, her performance in this movie, it seemed like she was just like, I'm just trying to work with what I got here. And unfortunately, I think Orlando Bloom being the lead, he doesn't really sell the emotion as much as he needed to. And I think that's another issue that I personally take with it. If there was a better actor during that era when it was being filmed, then they should have gone with that one. But unfortunately, just we have what we have. Then you have some of the moments that are just absolutely grating, like the moments where you're around the family and you've got Jesse's kid just screaming at the top of his lungs, and you're just like, dear God, just end it, just end it right now. I can't stand this. And then, of course, you've got some of the moments that are just drawn out way too long. Those moments sort of drag things down. But at the same time, you've got some kind of goofy and hilarious moments, too. One of the more funnier moments was during Drew's father's memorial service at the Memorial Hall in the hotel, where just the fictional band Ruckus gets on stage and they're just kind of jamming out. And then, of course, this paper mache bird that they're trying to just shoot through the Memorial Hall catches fire, and there's just pandemonium, chaos, and of course the band's just still rocking on. And it was one of those things, it was just kind of hilarious and yet beautiful chaos. But even with the hilarious moments, they don't redeem the movie. And again, it's just kind of unfortunate, because I think if the writing was maybe a little bit tighter, maybe just adding some sort of flaw to the whole the magic pixie woman trope, to sort of give a little bit of tangibility to the story, then maybe it could have stood to be better. But just as it stands, it's just a real damn shame.
It is fun, but you do enjoy the movie, right? Because you're getting a 60% that's above average. So you're saying it's good, but just deeply flawed, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. You're gonna find this funny. While you were talking, and I was listening, I decided, because after I kept saying magic pixie woman, I kind of get the feeling like I'm getting that term wrong. And I looked it up, and I did get it wrong. It's called Manic Pixie Dream Girl. But check this out, okay? I looked this up, and guess where the terminology, this term, came from, okay? Manic Pixie Dream Girl, this is what we're trying to say here, is a stock character type in films. Film critic Nathan Rabin, who coined the term after observing what movie?
Oh God, Elizabethtown.
Exactly. After observing Kirsten Dunst's character in Elizabethtown, said that the MPDG exists solely in the fevered imaginations of sensitive writer-directors to teach broodingly soulful young men to embrace life and its infinite mysteries and adventures. Wow, I didn't even know this, and the only reason why, and honestly, the only reason why I looked this up was I kept saying, I'm saying that term wrong. I'm pretty sure I'm saying that term wrong. But the right term is Manic Pixie Dream Girl. And he's dead on right. He is absolutely right on that. Man. But I'm glad I looked that up. But yeah, like I didn't realize that term came from this movie specifically. But this type of character has been done plenty of times before. Yeah, I guess it's just that term just originated from this critic talking about this movie. So, okay, neat, I guess. 1 star for me, and 60% for 0 for Elizabethtown. Sorry, Kim. It's been nice knowing you.